Dear Fleccas Talks, the podcast. Hi, guys. I just wanted to reach out and say hello and give you some observations I've made in Detroit if you're interested. Just so you know, I'm a longtime show watcher and a brand new bonus lander. I decided I really couldn't reach out without first showing my support for the show. There was an episode where Fleccas said at the end, not too long ago, he was like, if you're still watching at this point and you haven't signed up for Bonus Land, fuck you. I'm not going to lie, that stung, but I still didn't sign up until just now. Although I don't need the bonus content. 2 shows a week is plenty of content for me, but I still want to support you guys because you do great work. Just to let you know, I'm serious about how much I've watched you. The other night, I had a dream that I saw this huge iced coffee from Dunkin' Donuts, and I assumed it belonged to my coworker at my stupid email job, who shows up every single day with one of those. But when I looked closer at the sticker so I could see the name, it said Snarf Snarf. And in my dream, I was like, oh, I need to take a picture of this so I can show the guys. I've actually been watching Fleccas since his wooden spoon days. And I just thought his approach was so brilliant. Act as an undercover schizo and interview lefty schizos on the street. You were so unassuming that most of them would open up to you with their insane takes, which you turned into hilarious right-leaning content. I'm very proud of how far you've come, Fleccas, and can I just say you are looking great. You've been taking good care of yourself and it shows. I think you're both really attractive, but I'd guess I'm at least 10 years older than you guys. I find your commentary and banter very witty, which also helps. I also love the way you just really own who you are and what you think. You joke around and call yourselves the Fat Racist Podcast. I'm not sure if someone else gave you that name, but I think it's okay. We all know there are plenty of fat racists on the other side, so it's about time we had some representation. I don't really think you guys are racist at all. You're realists who present facts and real statistics that contradict many of the current narratives and keep us all up to date on the decline of the West. Thanks so much for being out and proud about it. It's very hard to come out as a free thinker. That's why I started this podcast. In part just as a creative outlet for myself, but also a place where I can express myself and my views and let others know they're not alone. That's why I chose the name Alice White. It's not my real name, but I want to get into my feelings around my whiteness and how it's become so unfashionable, especially over the last few years. Anyway, I just wanted to share a couple of video clips with you. One that I snapped while waiting for some hibachi food that I ordered out of a trailer. A very questionable decision on many levels, but I did catch something interesting while I was standing there. This hibachi trailer was in the parking lot of a gas station, and as I'm waiting, this police car pulls up, and the driver hops out and goes inside the gas station, and I see that the Mexican flag is being displayed very proudly inside this cop car. This video is not great, and you can't really see. It was like a full-size Mexican flag with like a tiny Mexican flag in the middle, so just imagine seeing the entire flag. I didn't want to be too obvious that I'm taping them, but I realized as I'm doing this, both of the cops in the car were Hispanic. And it might seem strange in Detroit, but did you know there's a whole section of Southwest Detroit called Mexican Town? It even says so on the map. It's a part of town that has been mostly occupied by Mexicans since the 50s, when many of them came here to work in auto factories, and they haven't stopped coming since. I'm sure it's a popular destination for our latest migrant friends because they can probably get work and see their family and whatnot. To this day, there are tons of very tasty and authentic Mexican restaurants, bakeries, and shops. It's not at all unusual to see the Mexican flag flying in this part of town, and the Cinco de Mayo parade is off the hook. But the Mexican flag being flown inside a cop car takes it a little too far, in my opinion. They had a black dude in the back of the car, and I'm pretty sure they bought him hibachi. Another observation I made, and this could maybe be considered uplifting gold, there's a water tower located right in the intersection of I-75 and the Davison Freeway, and I get a good look at it whenever I take the flyover. For a while, it said in sloppy black spray paint, Free Palestine, which was annoying. Not because I love Israel, just because it was a reminder of how many dum-dums there are in this world that keep getting sucked into this divide and conquer nonsense that they don't even understand. But a few weeks ago, I drove by it and someone had covered Free Palestine with America First in red, white, and blue paint, which made me very happy. Unfortunately, I went back today to try and get a better shot of it, and it had been painted back to solid white, which kind of sucked, but of course, they couldn't let the message be America First, but at least it doesn't say Free Palestine anymore. I don't care what anyone says. Michigan is a deep red state, with the exception of Detroit and maybe Ann Arbor, a college town. Let's never forget Detroit played a big part in the 2020 steal, poll watchers being kicked out, etc. That was at what was called the TCF Center at the time, downtown, but now it's called Huntington Place. I guess a bank bought another bank, and probably because they didn't want anyone remembering the name of the place where those shenanigans went down. Yes, I voted for Trump in 2016 and 2020, but in 2020, I was living in California, so I may as well just flush my ballot right down the toilet. Moving to Michigan was somewhat strategic in that I wanted to bring a red vote to a battleground state. The taxes here are almost as bad as California, though. But there's no looting, my car has never been smash and grabbed, and downtown Detroit actually looks like Disney World compared to San Francisco. Seriously. Detroit gets a bad rap, but it's actually a very cool city with very cool people and has really come up in the past few years. I would encourage you guys to visit. Michigan is a really awesome state, minus the puppet governor, who will also be getting a letter from me soon. Anyway, back to your podcast. I wanted to address something I saw recently because it was like my podcast worlds were colliding. You showed a clip of some women in the woods angrily beating up tree branches and whatnot. I busted out laughing because that workshop was being led by a woman named Mia Magic, who I've actually seen on some other podcasts that I frequent. That exercise in the woods was about expressing sacred rage, and I get it. Women have been lied to a lot and have sacrificed what would have made them really happy in the name of women's liberation and progressivism, and I would know because I'm one of them. I'm aware of all the BS lies fed to women, and I still married and have since divorced another woman because I thought that would work out for me, since I hadn't been able to find a man who would treat me the way I wanted. I realize now that was a product of my own low self-worth, and I was attracting dirtbags. So I'm working currently on improving my self-worth through self-expression and speaking my truth. You mentioned in your last episode, or one of your last episodes, that you only have 1 day off per week and that you'd be going on vacation soon, which made me happy to hear because you guys seem to be very focused on your work, which, don't get me wrong, is great. Just wondering when you two will be walking the walk and starting families of your own. I'd love to do a short interview with you guys to ask you personal questions that I'm sure your audience is also wondering about, like, are either of you in a serious relationship? If not, why not? If so, when are you getting married? Does Richard Ratboy make his own iced coffees? What do you personally plan to do if they steal another election and or once again disrupt society with a worldwide catastrophe? Who do you think is the best choice for Trump's VP? I don't think anyone they have floated sounds good at all, especially Nikki Haley. Can we all agree if he needs a non-white woman that he should ask Tulsi Gabbard? I heard someone say that she would be the velvet to his iron, and I think that is so true. Let's try to make that happen because Ron DeSantis or Marco Rubio would also be boring, stupid choices. I would also really love to go down the conspiracy rabbit hole with Fleccas. I think I'm with you about 98% of the time when Richard Ratboy is like, okay, whatever. I totally get it most of the time. I'm talking about topics like Donald Marshall and what's hiding in plain sight on the UN flag. If you know, you know. I would also love to reminisce about the good old days of YouTube when it was cool and you could find the wildest conspiracy videos. Like so many, you could never watch them all. My algorithm used to be absolutely bananas. Now it's so censored and lame. I'm surprised but glad you guys are still able to be on the air because a lot of what you say are major no-nos, but you still get away with it. So keep it up. I've been putting off making this podcast for so long, but I've come to the point where I can't be quiet anymore. And you two are an inspiration, so thank you. Also, Steve Bannon, who I heard on Tucker's show the other day, he was very inspiring when he said,
this is an illegitimate regime of neo-Marxists. From the Justice Department to the FBI, the Wall Street crowd, you can see this everywhere in our society, the attacks on the family, and they play for keeps. And I'm so glad that in the Alex Joneses and the Tucker Carlsons, and particularly since you've had the opportunity to leave Fox, ourselves and so many others now understand that this is a war to the knife, right? We have to win this. If we don't win this, this country is going to devolve into some kind of neo-Marxist totalitarian regime, of which it's pretty far down the road right now. That's why I don't fear going to prison, right? I know it's going to take my voice off. The war is still going to go on, and I keep saying it's next man up. You can't lean on Trump. You can't lean on Tucker. You can't lean on Bannon. You can't lean on Alex Jones. This is a populist revolt. You have to step up and do it yourself. Your government has turned against you, not our country, the government. This illegitimate regime has taken over the apparatus of the United States government and is enforcing dictatorial power. And we have to stand up for it, just like the revolutionary generation stood up to the dictatorial power of the crown and people like the British East India Company.
It's up to me and all of us to tell people around us and everyone that we can that if they still believe in mainstream news and attack the so-called far right, that they are just wrong. I'm a witchy, weird woman in my 40s, and I would love to make the connection with you guys and anyone else who loves America so our message can be multiplied and amplified. I owe America her own letter as well. She's all fucked up, but we let her get this way. We have to protect her and speak out the truth about her, or we might lose her forever. Honestly, I think we need America 2.0. Stronger, smarter, and out of the toxic relationship she's been in with globalist psychopaths for decades. Thanks for all you do, Fleccas Talks the podcast. Keep up the good work, and I hope I speak for many in your audience when I say you should make less content and start making babies. But if you're waiting to see what happens in the next 6 months, I get it. Take care, guys. Love, Alice.